Cybertruck lead engineer just shared some good news with us. There were concerns about Cybertrucks rusting, and we had photos of these little rust spots, but Wes says stainless is reactive and free iron that sits on it will rust. And it is only surface contamination and can be cleaned off easily. You can use barkeeper's friend. And if there's anything really stubborn, use a blue, non-scratch Scotch-Brite pad as it won't leave any marks on the metal. Elon also replied to this with a yeah. A lot of Tesla bears were saying that the Cybertruck is going to be a complete failure because it now rusts, and because of that you really cannot use it as a work truck because you need to keep it clean the whole time. But no, this is not going to be an issue. Yesterday we had a quick update from the governor in Mexico saying that construction of Giga Mexico should start very soon, specifically in March, and Troy created a table with his new estimate, and he says if groundwork for Giga Mexico begins in mid-March, the factory should be ready for production by the end of January 2026. Tesla's chief designer Franz was just interviewed by Wall Street Journal, and I think there's some good news there. He says that Elon Musk remains very involved in the design process, adding that Elon sometimes sends him ideas he saw on X, and other times Franz, who prefers to talk through design ideas in person, catches Elon where he can. And I really like this part, and we got some hints about the next generation vehicle in terms of how it should look. Franz compared Tesla's upcoming affordable car to Volkswagen's Beetle or Ford's Model T, a product for the masses, he said, albeit one that feels like it's a continuation of the idea of the future, hinting that it could look a little bit, maybe somewhat similar to the Cybertruck, or maybe it might have some resemblance or some design elements taken from the Cybertruck, or if not, what I'm getting from this is that it will look different from, quite a bit different from the Model 3 and the Model Y. Here's one idea from Tesla Economics. This is not related to Tesla, the company, directly. And Elon Musk, I think, personally liked this picture. He might have commented on it, or if not, then he definitely at least liked it on X. So there could be some resemblance to this. Here, I actually found the actual post. Elon Musk specifically said, good design about this vehicle. Elon just commented on this post. This will really help our people, he said. The news is Tesla will soon launch a train to its Gigafactory directly from Berlin, according to the Minister of Infrastructure of the local area. It will start operating in April, taking people to Giga Berlin in just 14 minutes, which still sounds like a long time, but it's better than possibly being stuck in traffic and taking 90 minutes just to get to the factory. If you are from Berlin, maybe you can comment down below how long it actually takes to get there during rush hour. But before, we have heard from Tesla that hiring in Berlin was not exactly easy, and this will make it easier. Because also in Europe, there are quite a few people that actually don't have cars, or just have one car in the family. Here's a nice change that Tesla just made in the US. If you are looking at the vehicles in the inventory, you will still see the total price, but also you will see the price after the tax credit, which I think is pretty important because some people still don't know that the credit actually even exists. So this will help with sales probably at least a little bit. Here's how many Cybertrucks we had yesterday morning. About 30 at the E-calibration lot, about 27 on the Southwest temporary staging lot, and another approximately 25 in the New West outbound lot. And there were more exiting the factory, so well over 75 Cybertrucks in total. Soon, we might start seeing hundreds of Cybertrucks in just one single day at Giga Texas. We know that Ford has some pretty big losses from its EV business, and therefore it decided to increase these losses further by slashing prices on the 2023 Mustang Mach-E lineup in Canada, making it a competitive option in the EV market. Significant discounts up to $13,000 have been announced. There's a big difference in price cuts when Tesla does them because Tesla is already profitable, but Ford is clearly not. I wouldn't say it's likely, but certainly we can make an argument that one reason for these massive discounts from Ford is that maybe they will discontinue the Mach-E by the end of 2024. That's what Farzad thinks. I'm not sure though. Seems to me that Ford is aware that they need to transition to the EV business eventually. It's just that they are losing so much money. Gary just gave us a quick economy update. It's really hard for anyone to argue the economy is falling apart, with GDP growth averaging 2 to 3% for 6 quarters in a row now, and inflation continuing to moderate. As an investor, I certainly like this. And I especially like low inflation because that means the interest rates are more likely to go down. And when that happens, growth stocks, they go up, and Tesla stock is one of them. Gary's not shying away from sticking to his buyback position, with Tesla again building up cash at a stupid rate. And these are some strong words that you don't really see often from Gary. $29 billion at 2023 year end, with predictions cash could hit $150 billion by 2030, and Tesla in between two major growth waves. I'll ask again, why doesn't Tesla distribute some of its unneeded cash, $10 billion over 3 years, back to shareholders? All of Tesla's tech competitors are returning cash to shareholders. It's the sensible thing to do rather than let cash build up unchecked at 4 to 5% ROIs. I think Gary's point makes sense if Tesla stock is less than 10% of your stock portfolio. But if it's a substantial amount, like in my case, it's 100% of my stock portfolio, in that case, you have to think about risk. Okay, if something really bad happens to Tesla and now it just spent all of its money or a large portion of it on buybacks, and there's a recession now and the stock plummeted, you cannot really just raise more money because maybe also the interest rates are now really high. So what are you going to do? You're just not going to grow, and you're just not going to invest money or as much money as would have been needed into whatever pickle you got yourself into because of extremely tough economical times if we encounter a huge, massive, unexpected recession. And Elon Musk is not really diversified with his wealth. He is more now compared to before, but still, so much of his wealth is in Tesla stock. And therefore, I think he wants to play it a little bit safe with the buybacks and the cash position that Tesla has. But I certainly understand Gary's position. Gary is a fund manager and he does want good performance short term, and he has many stock holdings. So if Tesla stock somehow did not do well because it spent too much money on buybacks, it wouldn't really matter to him. But I will let Elon Musk make the decision whether Tesla should do a buyback or not. Obviously, he has insider information and he knows Tesla's plans better than anyone else in this world because he's in charge of these plans. So if he's not doing a buyback, I think there's a reason for it. And in this regard, at least my incentives and Elon's incentives when it comes to Tesla doing buybacks, our interests are perfectly aligned. Elon would greatly benefit from Tesla stock going up in the long term. So if that really was helpful, he would certainly do it. If he thought this is the best decision for Tesla stock in the long run. However, Gary Black does make a pretty decent point here. One last thought about Tesla doing buybacks. If the Tesla board combined a new 2024 CEO compensation plan with a multi-year $50 billion buyback, let's say $250 per share, which would be equal to 200 million shares, the shares denominator could shrink by 6%, making it easier for Elon Musk to get to 25% ownership. Elon's biographer, Walter Isaacson, was on TV earlier this week, and let's take a look at what he said.
Incoming missiles from all sides.
Yeah.
And one question is, he feels it's coordinated, that the whole administration, everybody's coming at him for political reasons. I don't think that's true. I don't think there's some top-down Biden administration, let's do this and this. But I do think you got regulators in all sorts of places that generally feel, hey, I can do well by taking on Musk. They tend to not be politically aligned with him. They're part of bureaucracies, and he's got a lot of incoming missiles. This SEC one is basically about how well did he report when he started buying Twitter shares back in 2022. And you know what? It wasn't as if he had the world's greatest reporting standard saying, okay, I've reached this percentage.
Right. And it said all along he was going to be a passive investor with some of those things.
You know what? I mean, this is Musk. I was there. It's chronicled in the book day by day. He's there being a passive investor. Suddenly he's flying to Hawaii to borrow Larry Ellison's house. He gets mad at Parag Agrawal and the other things. He changes his mind. 4 or 5 times. We can see it over a weekend, both in Hawaii and up in Vancouver. So when the SEC says, were you a passive investor or not, you know,
you saw it in action. You saw it in action. There was reason that he could have very well have been well-intentioned and truthful when he was making those statements on it.
Well, it's also true that if you've watched him, he can change his mind.
Imagine a person that can actually change his mind. Obviously, that's definitely a positive for Elon Musk. Now, when it comes to political investigations coming straight from the top, is it just a coincidence that Elon Musk is under so many investigations, including Tesla? Well, I think this little clip reveals the answer to that question.
Mr. President, do you think Elon Musk is a threat to U.S. national security? And should the U.S., and with the tools you have, investigate his joint acquisition of Twitter with foreign governments, which include the Saudis?
Worthy of being looked at.
Now, the president did say in that statement also that he's not saying that Elon Musk is doing anything inappropriate, but saying he's worthy of being looked at sort of suggests that. And of course, a statement like that from the president would start multiple investigations, likely. And that's exactly what we have seen happen. This news clip was posted on November 9th of 2022.
Some of the Delaware stuff, and I'm curious what you think of the compensation situation.
I find that baffling. I mean, you're quoted in my book when they give out that compensation package saying this is a real stretch. If he can pull this off, it will amaze people. If he can get through, I think there were five
there were 5 targets, or 5 or 6 targets, both on market cap, but more importantly, I would argue, operationally.
Right. How much he could put out, how much revenues, how much market cap. You had to go through all of these
and
games.
Then you had to hold it for 5 years, too.
Do it for 5 years. And he gets nothing except if he goes through these things. And he says, okay, I take the bet. 2017, going into 2018, the whole place seems to be going bankrupt. People like yourself are saying, no way it seems that he will get to these goals. He takes it, he does it, they pay him. I cannot imagine how a Delaware Chancery Court judge, I guess it is, could say, all right, do over, you don't get the money.
I was looking at Tesla stock for a few years before I became an investor in early 2019, and I just wasn't really going to go and invest in a company where it didn't seem abundantly clear that it will definitely become profitable. Once that became clear to me, then I became an investor. You know, I wouldn't have had much of an issue if this lawsuit decision was made, let's say, half a year or 1 year after the compensation package was approved. In that case, okay, whatever. But taking away this compensation after it has been awarded, after all the performance goals have been met, to me, that's just theft. If shareholders really thought it was outrageous or not fair, they would have made a big fuss. Not just a guy with less than 10 shares, but people with millions of Tesla shares. How come they were completely quiet? Do you think these people are stupid? Do you think they don't realize, yeah, Kimball Musk is a brother of Elon Musk, and therefore, obviously, Kimball Musk likes Elon Musk and they have a special relationship because they're family? Do you think these wealthy Tesla stock holders don't understand that? Obviously they do. And Tesla stock investors, they understand what kind of a relationship that Tesla board members have with Elon Musk. And to me, it has always been more of a positive than a negative, because I think this makes Elon Musk see the board more as a friend rather than an enemy that he has to fight against constantly just to get anything really innovative done.
What's the next step? What
It
happens?
could go to
with
the
this?
Delaware Supreme Court. I assume, and you've seen it in the Wall Street Journal today, I assume that Tesla and other companies like his will pull out of Delaware because you can't trust it now. And you see Nevada making a big run to
And
say,
Texas.
and Texas. You know, I've tried to be objective in my book. I see all the things. I can see why people are furious at him. I can't see how you take the guy's compensation 5 years after it's been granted and say, oh, no, the deal that 75% of stockholders made, we're just going to revoke that and
What
take the
happened
money
they did?
away.
I mean, it's bizarre. Even the purchase of Twitter and other things along the way. Like, what? It's crazy how it's all
And if
tied
you
up in this
read, I
decision.
think there are more than 200 pages I read, of course, the thing. It was, I don't want to go too far here, but it was somewhat politically tendentious. You know, does the world's richest man need to, as opposed to the law says
This is what he was
that,
granted.
yeah.
Right. And look, to me at least, I don't know if you
And
agree with
shareholders
this.
voted on it. That was the.
So
Overwhelmingly.
Really, but if you look through that decision, they're claiming that effectively that independent board isn't so independent, which, by the way,
that has an odious smell.
May
Truth to
very
it.
well be true.
That has
Right?
an
It may
odious
not
smell,
be
truth
as
to it.
independent, and they may not have may not have negotiated as hard as they should have. I think we could probably all agree that that's the case. Having said that, there's this idea that because they were this independent board and they endorsed it, that the shareholders agreed to the deal because they endorsed it, meaning that this
the shareholders agreed to it.
The argument is that effectively this independent board
That they were given bad
misrepresented
information.
themselves as being independent, and therefore
Wait.
that and
There
the
was
endorsement
no
was the
major
problem.
shareholder looking at Kimball
Nope.
Musk and
I
other
agree with
people
you.
on the board.
I agree with you. I'm just
and
saying
they
that
could look at that
but
deal
that's what
and
the
they
judge
could
was trying
read
to say.
about it in the deal book column
Yep.
of the New York Times.
Yep.
It had it exactly right. And they say, here's how we voted. And even if there was some, non-independence on the board, you can go in then and say, wait a minute, this doesn't smell right. But to go in after he's accomplished every single one, or almost every single one of those goals, gotten the money, use it to buy, then say, no, we think 5 years ago was wrong. It's ridiculous.
So you think the Delaware Supreme Court would overrule it?
I think it should.
I 100% agree with Walter Isaacson. I think the decision should be overruled, but will it be overruled? To answer that question, I think it's important to know the home state of the current president. And do you think that the current president is a good dear friend of Tesla? I mean, the company that he refused to even mention for a long time. Just the word Tesla would not come out of his mouth for a long time. And in 2021, the White House hosted an EV summit, inviting executives from the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, while Tesla was not there. Not because Tesla did not want to be there, but because Tesla was intentionally not invited. So keeping all of that in mind and knowing that the current president is from Delaware, I think it's a bit less likely that that decision would be overruled. I am not saying it will not be overruled, I'm just saying that the chances are slightly lower. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode.